President Trump continued to demand these prosecutions of his own opponents. The DOJ on this blatant tear, new charges against the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, former Director Comey, and other moves against officials who have crossed Trump. News of the DOJ pushing a grand jury to indict Trump's own former aide. John Bolton was a big deal going into the weekend. Trump also now pushing for new charges against Democratic Senator Adam Schiff, calling on the, quote, authorities that he controls to investigate the senator. And this comes after Trump named Schiff among two other people who have since been indicted. Schiff was an especially prominent leader of Trump's first impeachment, which is, of course, a lawful process where Congress can discuss or seek removal of a sitting president. But Trump's admitting in public to an unlawful plot to try to get Schiff indicted for that, and regardless of evidence. Now, abusing powers to charge and jail individuals, to threaten, silence, or kneecap opponents is much more associated with foreign autocrats than American government. Trump has blatantly admitted his goals to go get critics without even claiming to name reasons or specific crimes. Systems that punish or disappear opponents are not considered very democratic. And elections don't mean much if the top rivals to a potential autocrat are just stuck in jail. An election in that format doesn't work very well. And that's what we've seen in Putin's Russia. Donald Trump's moves don't come in isolation. They come as he tries to seize powers to keep troops and federal agents across U.S. streets, even as some judges are limiting those powers as we go. Now, this is serious. It is happening, and it is not popular. While Trump has been bluntly pushing hard because the DOJ wouldn't do any of these cases under the traditional rules, with many of the longstanding and nonpartisan staff, up until very recently, they weren't getting these charges, remember? But his own team knows that this is unpopular, and they are denying what is happening, partly, apparently, because to admit it would make it even worse. Take Vice President J.D. Vance. Remember, he's a Yale-educated lawyer who said in 2016 he worried Trump was either cynical, like Nixon, or worse, a, quote, morally reprehensible person who could be, Vance infamously said, quote, America's Hitler, unquote. Now, Vance reversed himself once Trump came to power, and unlike Donald Trump today, who admits these revenge goals are based on the people, go get these people, he names them, not any type of evidence, not any type of legal process, but Vance now claims against the evidence that it's all just normal law and facts.
Is the Department of Justice acting on orders from the president to prosecute his political opponents with the final 30 seconds we have left?
No, we're driven by the law and the facts of the case. I think if you look at the case, the fact that a far-left grand jury in a far-left area indicted Letitia James and James Comey, if you look at the fact that James Comey obviously lied under oath, Letitia James obviously committed mortgage fraud, what we're doing is letting the law drive the prosecution decisions in the Department of Justice. You know who we haven't prosecuted? Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton.
The Trump-Vance DOJ, of course, is the source of contradicting Vance's claims. The law and the facts were what drove us up to this point, and without any recent indictments. For several months, on these cases, I'm not talking in general, but on the Comey and James case, there was a process, and the law and the facts did not result in charges, even in a DOJ with a Trump attorney general and Pam Bondi's picks for who should be U.S. attorney. And so if you watch the news, you know what happened next and why Vance is wrong. The Trump DOJ swapped in this new, very inexperienced prosecutor who would do precisely what DOJ would not do before, what the facts and law had not deduced before. So Trump's mindset is clear. He's agitated to indict opponents since his first campaign. It has taken this long, however, to distort and sort of restaff the DOJ to find people willing to risk their law licenses and maybe more to do what he wanted.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Trump admitted that on the campaign's biggest stage, the debate. That was 16, of course. And while he may want a Putin-like DOJ approach to any and all of his opponents, whether they're running directly against him or the Republicans next term or wherever it leads, judges are limiting some of the related efforts he's making, stationing troops all over the place, the new appeals court blocking that. Then there are the ICE agents, their tactics, drawing new scrutiny in Chicago. There's an outcry. Agents posted up outside a church during Sunday Mass, while other agents went right after a Marine's parents.
Reports of federal agents near a Catholic church during Sunday services. The priest on video urging his parishioners to leave Mass with extreme caution.
Churchgoers leery to leave their parish.
The Catholic priest gave an unexpected warning to parishioners, urging them to leave cautiously because immigration officers were reportedly in the area.
I think they've been casing the church.
The parents of a U.S. Marine are being detained by immigration officials.
Her family was coming to take her and her husband to breakfast on September 28th when they were stopped at the gate, and Steve says ICE arrived.
Another weekend of federal law enforcement efforts with the government vowing there will be more.
And there is a growing opposition to this, even though, remember, we are in a time in America, not unlike the McCarthy era, where some of the opposition is even more muted than it would normally be because some people are understandably afraid or getting more quiet or just avoid politics at church and at work. And I'm not here to lecture you about who can do what when. People make up their own minds in a democracy, kind of the whole point, about how to involve themselves, when and how to stand up if they choose to. But even against that effort at muting, at censorship, at the FCC late night agenda, even against all that, we see a wider group of people, from conservative podcaster Joe Rogan to MTG recently calling out ICE. I'll show you that later tonight. To President Obama, who is careful not to speak out all the time. He's not running a daily politics podcast, but has chosen again this inflection point. He's speaking out again about these problems, what Trump does, and what he views as the bias and how it's all covered.
If I had sent in the National Guard into Texas and just said, you know what, a lot of problems in Dallas, you know, a lot of crime there. And I don't care what Governor Abbott says. I'm going to kind of take over law enforcement because I think things are out of control. It is mind-boggling to me how Fox News would have responded.
This is the crackdown, and it goes from the selective prosecutions to the ICE tactics to a president who in year one is testing how far he can get away with having troops and agents out on a regular basis all over the country in year one. So what do you think he'll do if he gets away with it going into year two, the midterms, let alone year four, whether we ever have peaceful transfers of power in this country?